So when I started to look at this passage when I was preparing for this morning, it kind of brought up a kind of memory, like an image. And it was an image of long time ago at primary school and sports day. And we always had a flat race where we ran our own race, and that was running for yourself. Everybody was out to win, every man for themselves, and I used to cringe because I was rubbish. I never ever won, and I was always rubbish. But then we would always have the three-legged race. It was different. You had to be joined to each other, and in order to move forward, you had to stay connected to each other. The moment you took your eye off the ball and tried to do your own thing in your own strength, you failed. And I suppose that's a bit like what Jesus is teaching us in today's passage. I didn't know very much about vines, so I had to go and look up some facts. So I've got a few facts for you. Grapes are the most grown fruit in the world. No other plant is as fruitful as the vine. New plants are pruned for 3 to 5 years to train them before they're allowed to produce a crop. In the same way, we require time to learn and grow to become rooted in our faith. And I was reading a story about a man called George Whitefield. And George Whitefield was an evangelist in the 1700s. At age 25, a charismatic Anglican priest, he created a sensation in England, preaching outdoors and going over the heads of all the other priests to reach their congregation. In 1740, he showed the same defiance of authority in America with a revival called the Great Awakening. In 15 months, a quarter of America heard his message. However, when he was asked how many were converted, he replied, "We'll know in 5 years." He recognised it's not just a one-off event, but it's a lifetime commitment. Another fact, vines are high maintenance. They'll only live and thrive if they're handled with great care and constant pruning. Pruning is absolutely essential for the vine. Dead wood needs removing as it can harbour disease and cause decay, and pruning of the live wood improves the vine's potential for bearing fruit. Untrimmed vines develop unproductive growth and long rambling branches that produce few grapes because strength is given to the growing wood and not to the fruit. Fruit contains the seed for future fruit. So let's stop and think about that for a wee moment. Fruit contains the seed for future fruit. Wow, what a privilege. Therefore, if we do what Jesus commands us to do, abide in him, love the Lord our God with all our heart and soul and mind and strength, love our neighbour as ourselves, and use what we learn as we grow in God and bear fruit to bless others, then that must mean that we're helping to plant those seeds that help others to remain in the vine and bear fruit later. Wow, what a responsibility, but what a privilege and an honour to be called to do this, and we should take it seriously. Another fact, for their size, vines are extremely productive, yielding as much as 80 pounds of grapes in a single season. And good roots can continue to produce grapes for 100 years. So, even after we've helped pass on these seeds, and we've seen that fruit grow in others, and we're maybe older and thinking our job is done, it's not. We've to continue to remain in him and bear fruit, no matter our age or our experience. The command is to abide in him. The NIV version that Sam read this morning says it this way: we are to remain in him. This helps us to understand that this command is not fulfilled in a single act, but rather it's an ongoing life commitment of being united with Christ. So how do we abide in him or remain firmly in the vine? Well, we need to work at it. We need to spend time with God, we need to prioritise our time, and we need to organise our prayer life. In verse 15, Jesus calls us his friends. We're all blessed with friends throughout our lives, And we understand that we can't have friendships with no effort at all. We need to build those relationships and deepen them. That only happens when we invest time in each other. And as we do this, the relationship grows. We experience things together. This leads to talking and sharing more openly. And then we love, support, encourage, and trust each other. Therefore, if we've to have the honour of Jesus calling us his friends, then we must invest, really invest in that relationship in the same ways, but deeper and intentionally. I have a wee bit of a story. As some of you know, I've not been around as much lately because in August I got a new job and I went to work in the Howard Centre in Kilmarnock. Now, the Howard Centre is an outreach centre. It's Church of Scotland. It's Church of Scotland that pay my wages, if you like. And we're attached to a church in Kilmarnock. Now, I had this mad idea. I knew that God had called me to do that. I knew it was where I was meant to go. But I thought, well, I'm going to be working in a Christian place, working for the Church of Scotland. I'm going to go to this new job, and every morning I'm going to be able to have my quiet time, and I'm going to be really set up for the day, and I'm going to pray, and it'll be wonderful, and then I'll be ready to just go and fire for God. Well, it didn't really happen like that, because it's just busy and mad all day, every day. Have I given up? No. Do I love my job? Yeah. Is it a privilege? Yeah. But I'm still trying really hard to get that bit that I thought was going to happen. That sounded all ideal and perfect. It's not like that. But life's not like that. And I've had the privilege in this congregation and other places to be part of a lot of things. I've had the privilege of being part of a house group for a long time. I've had the privilege of being an elder. I've had the opportunity to go to lots of training, lots of conferences. I've had the privilege of being in the Path of Renewal group. And I've had the privilege over many, many years of being part of the life and work of our church. All of these things require commitment. All of these things are open to absolutely each and every one of us. They're all opportunities to learn and grow. I could have said no to all of these opportunities. I could have said, I'm too busy, I'm too scared, I'm not clever enough, somebody can do that better than me. But I didn't, because I felt that would be disobedient, especially as throughout our life, God has played such a big part in our family life, through good times and bad times, through big decisions. I felt I couldn't just pick and choose when I wanted to listen and respond. I needed to be obedient. If I had said no to all these opportunities that terrified me, and still terrify me, I definitely wouldn't be equipped for the job that God has called me to do now. Does that mean I'm sorted? Absolutely not. Am I overwhelmed at the busyness of life? Am I way out of my comfort zone every single day? Absolutely yes. Am I now managing my quiet time and getting my priorities right at the start of each working day? Absolutely not. But am I committed to keep trying? Absolutely yes. I was reading about a church. It was a big, big, busy church. I can't remember where it was. Doesn't matter. And it was the pastor of the church that was telling the story. And he was saying he was really busy. There was lots going on, lots of big projects. He was feeling quite swamped. And a couple of men in his church kept hassling him and saying that they wanted to start a men's ministry. If he was totally honest, he found it a bit of a, what will we say, just a bit of an annoyance. It wasn't that he didn't agree it was a good idea, but he couldn't commit the time. They kept going, and eventually he just said, off you go and just do it, I'm right behind you. And off they went. And it carried on, and people joined, and it was all going well, and it was just one of these little things in church that just carries on, does its thing with a few small people getting a lot out of it. But then after a couple of years, he just started to notice that actually these few men had become a very large group, and they were absolutely steeped in the life and work of that church. So it just goes to show that small steps together with God and with each other will produce great fruit. Large lonely steps too far without staying connected to God or each other will almost definitely fail. When I started working in Kilmarnock, there was a thing that had been planned. It was a cafe church. They had got a small group together, they had put out the invites, they had the venue ready, they had the coffee and all the cakes ready, they expected 40 people, they had done all their advertising, they had been speaking about it in church for a very long time, and they were sure that the numbers were going to be high. However, 9 people came. I was part of that group, kind of by default, because I had just arrived at the church. And we very quickly came to realise that that group had stepped out in faith. They had gone and followed what they thought God was sending them out to do, but actually God's plan was different from theirs. And in that group of 9, there were 2 people who had been really hurt in church and had never been back, who are now back, growing in their faith and enjoying the trust and the learning environment of that small group. Because of circumstances, we're not able to meet every week, so we were doing a small block and a small block. But because it had gelled so well and people felt very secure, people were really exploring their faith, they were a bit disappointed that it was going to stop. So we are now doing, I'm going to share this with you because I think it's really exciting, a Bible study on WhatsApp. So for those that don't know, WhatsApp's a wee thing you get on your phone. It's free. It's a bit like texting, except you can be in a group and everybody in that group can see what you write. So because of geography, people being in America for half of the year, people being elsewhere, we can't actually physically be together. But instantly, we can review this book and have a chat about our day and minister to one another, even though we're not seeing each other. So you don't always have to be in a place with lots of people. Now, we have huge opportunity in here. Look around our church family. We're so blessed to have so many involved in the life and work of our church. So many of us have a heart to serve. That's such a blessing and absolutely vital for our church and community. However, I'm sure if I were to ask what the biggest issue here was for everyone, I'm absolutely sure that time would be right at the top of the list. We all struggle with time. Time's a big thing. We have family, we have work, we have all sorts of things going on. And we always say we wish there were more than 24 hours in a day. Well, we've got an opportunity for you. Tomorrow, Monday the 12th of February, we have 2 taster information sessions on the next step of our Path of Renewal journey. One from 2 to 3 in the afternoon and another from 7 to 8 in the evening. And I would just ask you to give this careful thought. Remember, we all agreed to go on this journey together some time ago. It was for the benefit of the future of the church here in this community. Please don't read this and think, I've not got time. It's just another thing to fit in. I'm not good enough to do that, or somebody's better than me. The commitment is actually only to meet once a month. We can all manage that. I cannot express enough how valuable learning together has been for me. What an encouragement it is to be connected to God and one another as we grow with God. And this really is for everyone. And this, right now, is your personal invitation. Please accept the invitation, and please encourage anyone else you can think of to come along. There's no requirement to be a member of MPN. The invite is absolutely open. Path of Renewal is not exclusive. The invitation is for us all to grow with God and to stay connected to each other as we remain in the vine. We all need that safe place to explore and learn, to question without judgment, a non-threatening learning environment. We all need it, and God wants to create that space for us. But we need to accept the invitation. Only we can do that. He's not going to force us. Jesus doesn't tie us to the vine so that there's no escape. He invites us to remain in him. It's our choice. In John 15 is a continuation of Jesus' upper room message as to why our hearts should not be troubled from chapter 14. Why should we be free from anxiety? Because he is the vine and we are the branches. He will take care of us. We learn in this passage that God the Father is the owner of the vineyard as well as the gardener of the crop. Vineyards require constant attentive care. The Father tends his grapes, waters and protects them, and cultivates a harvest to produce a maximum yield. We can absolutely trust the gardener to watch and nurture us. His eye is on every single branch. We live in the world. We're human. Therefore, we'll always have negative elements in our lives. We all go through times when things are really hard. We may not face persecution in the same way some of our brothers and sisters in other places do, but we still have huge challenges to face at different times in our lives. And it would be easy to think, I just can't do this. It's too hard. I'm exhausted. I can't bear fruit anymore. I'm barely keeping my own head above the water. We all get these times. This week, in fact, was a really difficult week for me. It started off on Monday when I was already feeling exhausted, losing my purse. I never carry money in my purse. On that particular day, I had £220 in my purse. I had all my cards. I had my driving licence. And I had my new business card for work, a credit card. I did all the things of thinking I had put it somewhere, but I knew in my heart where it had happened and what had happened. So I then went down the route of phoning the banks and going to the police station and checking CCTV, all the time just feeling such a low and such a burden over maybe being careless, taking my eye off the ball. I then was coming, after rushing around as usual, coming down the road from work on Wednesday to go to a show in the Gaiety, which was fabulous, a lot of you were there, and discovered after a lot of road rage from other people that I was on a very dark road and I had absolutely no lights. I felt very scared, very vulnerable. I nearly got run into the grass verge at one point, and by the time I arrived at the theatre, I was just absolutely done. I had no time, no energy, nothing left for anybody. We need to just remember at these times, and I say that because I found it really difficult. We just need to remember that we are remaining in the vine. Jesus has got our back, and it's difficult when things get tough. Likewise, sometimes we allow small problems to get in our way of our relationship with other believers. Sometimes we get hurt by the words of actions of each other, and we think, that shouldn't happen. It's church. I'll just distance myself from them and then I'll not get hurt. That's a real challenge because Jesus commands that we love them. He says, Christians will get plenty of opposition from the world. Therefore, we need love and support from each other. Take every opportunity to strengthen these relationships with each other. Again, we have such a great opportunity in here. We have dinner for 6, just taken off. And if you've never done that, I would encourage you to do that as well. That's a really nice way of just getting to know other people. When you're not running about on a Sunday morning, you're able to just spend time chatting. It's just a really nice fellowship thing to do. We have, as I said earlier, our Growing with God. We have lots of different opportunities. We have knitting, we have the guild, I could go on and on. Lots of opportunities to get together with our brothers and sisters in Christ and just build those relationships. We can't bear fruit if we're disconnected from God and from each other. Nor can we bear fruit if we just come and visit the vine when we have the time or when we feel like it. It really has to be a long life commitment. Some of you may already be totally one with the vine, but if, like me, you need to make that commitment to spend more time in your relationship with God and become firmly rooted in the vine and in the tender, loving care of our Heavenly Gardener, then can I please encourage you to actively make that commitment. Imagine what our church and community could look like in the future if each and every one of us was firmly rooted in the vine, bearing fruit and spreading the seeds for future fruit wherever we go. In our society today, there are people who would say that God doesn't have a plan, but here's the reality check. He always has a plan, and we are called to play a major part in that big master plan. It tells us in Matthew that when Jesus was asked, he said, "The greatest commandment is this: love the Lord your God with all your heart and soul and mind and strength. And the second is this: love your neighbour as yourself." Wow, what an impact for God's kingdom if everyone obeyed these laws. Let's do our part. Love is what unites us to Christ, as branches are united to the vine. 2 results stem from our relationship to the true vine: obedience and joy. Obedience marks the cause of our fruitfulness, and joy is the result. Joy results when we realize the life of Christ in us is producing fruit, and that joy is infectious. Let's pray. Lord God, our loving gardener, help us to see that we are truly living branches of the living vine. Bring life back to us in areas where we struggle. Help us to grow deeper and get to know Jesus more intimately, therefore allowing us to do our part in your vineyard as we grow and flourish. Amen.